You'll do better today when you look forward to today and tomorrow versus living in the past, because the real estate that you're allowing somebody to live in your brain is yesterday. Don't let it hold you back. Gosh, we can drown in our sorrows of yesterday, or we can look forward to our successes for tomorrow. And it is a positive reaction. And then I found myself back into entrepreneurship again, started a recycling company with partners. It wasn't just me, there were several of us because it needed serious money, capitalizing it.
Hi, Mitch. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Thank you for being here. Welcome to Peak Performance Perspective, where we help entrepreneurs master health, wealth, and relationships. Now, Mitch, as a professional speaker and a closer who have spoken on stages in 63 countries and produced over two live events in 19 countries, what does peak performance mean to you?
You said it very well in the beginning. I think I can be a parrot and just say I would call it work-life balance, the balance of, because there is no, wealth is meaningless if you don't have health. Wealth is meaningless and peak performance if you don't have whatever spirituality you embrace. And that can be religion, it could be meditation. Let's just call it groundedness. And if you are wealthy in terms of monetary wealth, let's just call it financial wealth, that's great. But if you're 100 kilos overweight and you've got $1 zillion in the bank, I wouldn't say that's peak performance. That's poor performance. And peak performance is when you tick all of your boxes correctly that are important to you. I've seen 8 elements in the work-life balance, or let's say the life balance wheel. Everybody's got a different variation of this over the years. How's your spirit? How is your physical? How are your relationships? All of those things matter as humans. Unless you are an extreme introvert hermit living in the Himalayas by yourself for the last decade, living off the land, that isn't how humans typically live for the last 40,000 years. We are tribal. We are connected as people. And I think to perform optimally, your peak performance requires many components. And I think and of course, that huge L word that's important that I didn't want to accept at one time in my life, it's called love of yourself and love of other people and being there for support. I hope that wasn't too long-winded as a response, but that's my reply.
It's a great response. Through my life, and I know working with people and watching others, some of these concepts are so easy to talk about, so difficult to implement. So, what are some things that you have done in your life that you can share with the listeners that allow us to maintain this balance? Because this is an elusive balance we're all chasing, and sometimes most of us don't get there.
I can't claim I've reached nirvana in my advanced age. I'm a bona fide senior citizen. I've earned that by staying on this planet a certain number of years. And I believe it's a constant growth. We're pulling on this rope, progressing, and it's inch by inch. Sometimes it's a bigger pull. We see this progress. And I would just say it's a focus on the end game and what I do to keep myself righted daily. Because I need my glasses. Then I can see you. And that way I feel a little more connected. What I think is important in my daily rituals. Every morning I wake up and drink a glass of water, sometimes with lemon if it's accessible. Right now, as I mentioned, I'm in Thailand, so lemons aren't as accessible as when I'm home in Las Vegas. I start with a glass of water. That flushes my system, at least what I believe. I make sure I make my bed. After I shave, I make sure that my sink is clean. I don't rely on a maid to do it, even if I'm in a hotel. And I've spent a great deal of my life in hotels around the world because of my travel. I make sure that my hygiene is in order. Like I brush my teeth every night, every morning, and I floss. This may sound simplistic, but I think it matters. Making sure that I look in the mirror and the best Mitch as possible. I comb my hair. I use a brush and I comb my hair. Basic hygiene is there. A certain amount of exercise I put myself through every day. If possible, I personally, at this age, because I had a professional career as an athlete early on, I today make sure that I exercise 1 hour a day using Pilates Reformer as my mechanism because I found it through the injuries I sustained as an athlete. 20 plus years ago after an Achilles tear. I got into that. So I maintain my exercise regimen to the best of my ability, unless there's a rare event. I get a certain amount of sunlight every day because there are studies that link 15 minutes of sunlight a day keeps the depression away, keeps the negative thoughts away, and rights ourselves. And I think we have to have this daily rebooting and reset. So I follow that. I can't say my diet's perfect. I wear black because it hides the blubber nicely. And I'm a fit fat. I'm a little bit overweight, yet inside I've got a very strong core. I maintain fitness. I maintain a meditation chant that I follow and have followed for over 30 years, something I say every morning when I get up, every day in every way. I'm getting better, better, and better. And I repeat it for about 3 minutes, and I say it before I go to sleep, no matter what, twice a day ritual. My dental hygiene is in order. And these may seem obvious, not for everybody. So I make sure that I keep myself in check physically, because that affects how I feel about myself mentally. And I do not consume any mind-altering drugs. That includes alcohol, anything, even this medical marijuana stuff. I have an opinion about it. I think people abuse it to escape, and I don't use it. There are medicinal uses for it. I don't know how far that extends, and my suspicion is people abuse it. They've replaced alcohol with this to escape from their own reality. So I am devoid of any mind-altering substances in my life. I also surround myself with people of like-minded thinking. I think that's critical. We've many gurus, or people would say you're a compilation of your 5 most important people in your life. Your income is tied to the 5 people you associate with. I largely believe that's true. Not completely true, because I work with a lot of people that are depraved and try to bring them up, and their income doesn't match mine yet. Hopefully it will one day. But most of my friends fall into that category. If they're more negative than they are positive in their life, I have to remove them. That's my quick assessment.
You have been an entrepreneur for a very long time, and you have helped other entrepreneurs get launched and help them grow. In a world where entrepreneurship is so hard, you sold your first business at 20 for 7 figures.
Right.
So, can you share the story of what your first business was and what was the lessons you learned from selling it?
That I owned an advertising specialty business, and I've owned 2 of them different times. I've sold actually 3 businesses. 2, I've got to update my resume. One was when I was 28. I started it while I was in college at the University of Southern California, selling t-shirts and hats and fraternity paddles to fraternities and sororities. And then I hired a rep who helped me do this, and he sold it to UCLA students and then Cal State Northridge students. Then we went down to Long Beach State. We started handling all the colleges, selling merchandise. And I learned very quickly it was good, quick money, did well, the margins were fine, but when they changed social chairs, so did the relationship. So then I spilled over into the corporate market, where relationships sustained longer than a semester, because we had to start all over with the new person that replaced Joe Smith or Peggy Jones. And then if we got into the record industry and the movie industry in LA, where I lived, and then that business really grew over time. And then I sold it. And what I learned was I couldn't wait to do it again. I went and made my attempt at corporate America. I worked as a stockbroker for Merrill Lynch and did that for a period of time. And then I found myself back into entrepreneurship again, started a recycling company with partners. It wasn't just me. There were several of us, because it needed serious money capitalizing. And then we sold it out to Waste Management at a later date after 3 years. And then we walked away with that. Then I started another ad specialty business, marketing agency. And then in 2006, I sold it to Halo Branded Solutions, which is it's a publicly traded company. They bought out my assets in 2006. And since then, I have been working as a professional speaker, consultant, running workshops around the world, and seminar promoter, which I think is my most gratifying, because I require the least amount of employees. Employees equal headaches, equal baldness, and then that translates into hair transplants. So it's a cycle. So I've opted that I'm not the best manager. I'm a good visionary strategist. Managing people, I think, has been the hardest task as an entrepreneur in my life.
Looking at your own life and just using that as an example, if you had to pick one of the 2 options, are entrepreneurs made or are entrepreneurs born?
Oh, entrepreneurs are made, no question, 100%. It's
What
hard
was
work.
it that was happening in your life that caused you to become this way and have so many successful businesses and exits?
I've talked about the successes. I've failed more than I've succeeded. Mark, I don't have the golden touch. I have persistence. I have dogged determination. I've broken my teeth quite a bit in other businesses. I could talk about my failures as well and just share with you, I have failed more times than I've succeeded, but I have learned most of the time about where I made my mistakes, and I'm not going to repeat them. So I've made plenty of mistakes. I do not have the Midas touch. Some people say every business they get involved with turns into gold. I doubt that's true for most of us. I think that's a big fib. And if you look closely, their nose have grown and maybe they went to surgery and cut it off to get back to normal. But I think if you are a true entrepreneur and you have that in your spine to go out and at least attempt to reach for it, you've had some failures. You don't hit every hockey puck into the net when you will draw back and hit it. You'll miss every one you don't take. Wayne Gretzky's quote, you'll miss every shot you never take. Yet he didn't succeed every time he swung the hockey stick. The puck didn't go in the net. He was the greatest of all time. Every shot that LeBron takes or Michael Jordan took didn't go in. They have a percentage, but they took the shot. So you have a lot. Is that a failure? No, you just work on perfecting till it does go in the net. And most successful people swing the bat a lot of times. They throw the pass, they throw the ball, and they fail a lot all the way to success.
We talked about the lessons you learned from your successful exits. Let's talk about one that happened due to a failure. What was the biggest lesson you ever learned?
Oh, more recent was during the pandemic. I have a couple failures to share. I got involved. I thought it would be a great idea after I realized the pandemic wasn't going away. Nobody knew at the time except for the people that created it. And that could be a different discussion about conspiracy theory and who actually was behind it. Did I say Bill Gates? And the outcome of years of being tied down. I was only in the live events business, producing live events, in-person live events, not virtual live events, which now the world we live in has both live and in-person, live events in person and virtually. And I think there's a place for both. I refused to accept that at the time. And as a result, I suffered because I did not make the transition. And my excuse, possibly valid, was nobody knew how long it was going to go. And I wanted the world to return to where it was and what I knew. That did not happen. It's a new world today. We've overused statement of what's a new world order. Not really. It's just the platforms change some. Horse and buggy will not come back. And total live in-person events will not come back to where they were. I think they are back to some degree, but people consume virtually. And it's a changed world today. So I didn't jump on the bandwagon early enough as others did. Now I do both. And I'm producing an event in January for authors, and it's a virtual event live, but it's not in person at a hotel like I normally ran. I also invested in veterinary hospitals because I thought, okay, all these lonely people are buying pets. Pet sales were going through the roof. So I read about the trends. I thought, oh, isn't this a great idea? I got involved with somebody that knew the pet industry, and he didn't perform. He lost, and I knew an old version of this man, and the real current version was not what matched. And I think I held on longer than I could have or should have because he was a lifelong friend, but he didn't perform. So I think you have to look at business through a different eye than just wanting to help out a friend. You have to look at it a bit cold or coldly, I should say, and realize that not friendship doesn't necessarily mean business. And it cost me a lot.
Great lessons. Now, as someone now who helps secure TV and radio appearances for entrepreneurs and other leaders, what are the most effective ways to turn those assets into consistent lead flow and revenue?
Okay, the term of personal brand. What do people say about you when you're not in the room? That will reflect how you are perceived in the marketplace. Not what you necessarily say, it's what others say. And what will others say when you have no book, you have no legitimate television coverage, as in network television, you have no podcast coverage, as in being interviewed like I am here today, and it's my privilege to be here. Once you air this, I'm going to then post it on my personal site, on my social media, say I was covered on Mark's show, here are the notes, all of that to participate fully, to continue to add plumage to my feathers, because we have to peacock, especially with social media today. And he who has the most beautiful full flock of feathers in that plumage is the one that's going to draw the most attention out in the marketplace. So I think it's a constant, never-ending effort. People say, how often should I post on social media? As much as you have time to apply for it and to implement it into your campaigns. I find it annoying, but it's necessary. So you got to do this. You podcast for a reason, or you just like interviewing strange people in strange places. There's a payoff for it, hopefully.
Can you help our audience understand how can they go about crafting a compelling pitch to grab attention of media bookers?
Here are a couple ways. Media, in print, radio, it's all the same in this regard. First, and most people don't talk about this that are in the PR industry. First thing you have to think about, I'll talk about television and radio. First thing you have to think about is the person that books you, their first instinct, their first basic core requirement or need is, will I get praised or fired for putting this person on this show? It's not, are they the best match for the audience? Will this person embarrass me? Because the fear of being embarrassed is greater than the fear or the accolade that someone might get from bringing in a great guest, booking a great guest. I found this out over the years. Most say you got to have the right message for the market. That's true. That is true. The bigger issue you have to overcome, the hurdle you must overcome, is the booking agent at Fox, at CBS, NBC, whomever that is that introduces you to the show producer, who ultimately makes the decision, yes or no. Sometimes the host has input, rarely though. It's usually the show producer for lifestyle shows, etc. They'll say, here's your guest, Becky. And the booking agent who works underneath the producer is afraid for her job, number one. Or she's looking, am I going to get that promotion so I can be a show host at one point? Because they're usually broadcast journalism graduates of XYZ University. This might be their first job, as they were a coordinator under the producer. They went around on the set and did all this, so they're learning the background first. It's like the old mailroom. Oh, I worked in the mailroom and rose up. They're then put in the position of possibly the booking specialist or booking agent, who then supplies, okay, here are the following guests I have vetted for our show. But does that person have media to support being an expert on that category? Is their content timely? Is it relevant? Is it something that is piggybacking on the news? Anything Trump related or opinion about Trump is hot news now and will be for the next 4 years. Before that, Kamala Harris would have been equally important. Today, she's irrelevant. She's already forgotten. I don't even hear about her anymore. It's over. Now it's no longer timely. If somebody has an opinion on who's going to win the election, it's no longer timely. In October, it would have been relevant. So you got to be relevant after you pass proving that you are credible. So if I've been on TV, on CNN, CNBC, in multiple countries, and I've got proof that I have been on television, I can show the footage, and then I want to get on Fox TV in Las Vegas where I live, who do you think's going to be more apt to getting that interview? Me, who's got all this international provable assets of being on TV as an AI expert, let's just pick a timely topic, or Bill Smith, who might be a scientist. He might have had this deep background. He went to MIT, but he has no proof of being on television. He has no book. He's an MIT graduate who knows AI science probably 1,000 times better than me. But I remember the first level is, will I make Becky embarrassed? Or will I help her elevate her career because she can prove, oh yeah, Mitch was great on CNBC. He was great on CNN. He's written a book on AI and it's an Amazon bestseller. Or is it the scientist who knows the subject matter better than Mitch, but he's got no provable assets that he is in fact an expert? I'm going to get the press 1,000 times over to him to a whopping zero. Zero. She's not willing to take a risk on the professor or on the scientist, even though he's more qualified. I am packaged better than he is. That's what matters most. Step number one, have something before you immediately submit your request to get covered in Forbes, for you to get on the morning show in New York City. Good luck, Buster. If you've never been on a topic, or if you're another person talking about AI, which is a timely, but now old topic. It's now trending flat. It's not doing this like when ChatGPT came out 2 years ago this month. Anything would have been newsworthy at that time. And I know that because I got worldwide coverage on ChatGPT as I produced the first in-person live event on ChatGPT in February of 2000. And I had all sorts of TV coverage. And we also wrote a book on the topic. And it was, I know the recipe for success. Prove your assets, have a book on the topic, and know how to pitch them. It's timely, it's relevant, and you're going to want to get on this and be first before I submit this to NBC. They're competitive. They all look at each other's feeds. So figure out who it is, write a book on the topic, legitimize yourself, show a newspaper article where you wrote or were covered in an editorial or even an advertorial. Show your feathers. Color is your plumage. Is it big and flapping? Can you make the sound? Peacocks are very loud. They're a loud bird. They make loud. I don't know if you've ever heard one. They're horribly loud, Mark. Got to speak up. Squeaky wheel gets the oil, my man.
He will gets the oil. I love it. Why do you believe that selling one to many is exponentially more effective than selling one to one?
Oh, it's been proven to me. I used to go the hard way of selling one to one, picking up the phone, smiling and dialing when I was a stockbroker with Merrill Lynch, picking up the phone, saying, hey, Mr. Smith, I want to earn your investment business. How did you get my number? I'm eating dinner. Click. I used to deal with that. I made 100 calls a day, one to many. Then I figured out public speaking. And if I put 100 people in the room over an hour, instead of spending 8 to 10 hours on a phone, literally picking up and dialing push button back then on the phone. And I had a headset, which shortcut it a little bit, but smiling and dialing 100 people, 8 hours a day, every day. That's a grind, man, versus putting a room together, a seminar room, and I've got 100 people in the room on that day. They get to meet me, shake my hand, and I get to display my plumage to them. At that point, it wasn't a book, it wasn't TV, but it was the plumage of knowledge that I, in fact, knew what I was talking about, saying, here are your investment choices. And one of my clients invested with me 6 months ago with $100,000. Today, his portfolio was worth $130,000. That's 30% return in 6 months. Does that sound good? Hands would go up. Those are my new clients. That's one-to-many selling versus if I called 100 people in a day, that's one-to-one. I might get one person in a day as a new account. One, maybe. Some days you struck out. You put your boots on and you wade through the poo. In a crowd of live people, one to many, even if I'm terrible and I only get 10% of the room to engage with me, that's 10 times, maybe 20 times better than it is one-to-one with a lot of frustration. And I do this all over an hour versus 8 hours. And I have to do that over 10 days. So it's 2 weeks of effort of 80 hours versus 1 hour, and it's done in an hour, and I get the same result, even a better result. So it's leveraging a crowd. That's why one-to-many so well. And then I also later sold on live television on a channel called Home Shopping Network, and then I was selling 1 to 5 million. And that was a great way to learn how to sell one-to-many.
For those listening to this, I want to close the loop on one thing, which is that they're wondering, yes, I want to be able to do seminars, but I don't know how to fill the room. And you give some tips on how they can go about getting people to sign up for the events.
Oh, yeah. One, the easy tip, the easy hack is LinkedIn live events. And it depends on what you're selling. Is it local or is it national or is it global? So let's just call LinkedIn live events and I would run it for America. Let's just say people who want, and it's been a great vehicle for me to put people into my PR package. I guarantee television coverage in Las Vegas because I package people correctly so they can get into this guaranteed media. Just Las Vegas is what I guarantee. To put people into an event, let's talk LinkedIn live event, which is a virtual event. I access my list of people, the contacts I have. It can only go out to existing contacts, people who have accepted my connection in LinkedIn. And I do this every so often, and it's been a great ROI because guess what the cost is? Zero. It takes marketing effort. It takes some strategy. I could talk all day about this whole topic about LinkedIn live events, but that's one vehicle which is inexpensive. If you're on a limited budget, look into LinkedIn live events. Second is to do a virtual event, which is more of an investment of time and money because you got to create a great offer and you got to run Facebook ads or another ad platform, but that seems to be the best ROA still today. Facebook ads, run them to a landing page where you capture their name and email and possibly a video that introduces what it is that you are offering and drive them to your free preview, which could be a webinar preview where they get to view you before they buy something. You give something away for free. They get to learn about you, connect with them, and then you pitch them into whatever you're going to pitch them. That's a simple sales funnel for the latest. It's just how the flow is. The sales cycle. Before Russell got popular with his sales funnel, I've been in this business much longer than him. He popularized what I had been doing for years anyway, and via Dan Kennedy. So I was in Dan Kennedy's mastermind back in the 90s, a long time ago. This whole process is not new. It's just that the vocabulary changed a little bit. Is you romance the client, they see you a few times on an ad, talking on radio, talking on TV, then you drive to an 800 number, which is the old way, and you pitch them, and then you upsell until you exhaust their credit cards. And it's an old method. It's been around for decades. It's nothing new. You get people interested, they develop the comfort of buying from you and then realizing, okay, I've had my umbilical cord out since I left mommy. Where am I going to plug it in to get sustenance? Who's going to feed me now? Feed me. And they've all got it in their hands. Sometimes both hands are on this umbilical cord. Stick it in. Where am I going to get sustenance? Mommy left me. Mommy kicked me out. I want to go back in, but I can't. I'm too big. So now I need this sustenance. It's like a big sucker at the end of the umbilical cord. It's there. Who's going to give me and satisfy my needs? And if you understand that, and of course I'm oversimplifying it with some comedic component, all you have to do is satisfy what they want. They want to feel secure. They want to feel that they're going to get a return. They're going to get nice milk when they plug it in to you and give it to them. Provide value for the money they invest, and you'll have a relationship. It's not just a relation. It's not transactional. It could be relational, which involves the ship.
As someone who's been a professional pitchman on the home shopping network, selling millions of dollars of products, can you give us some tips on the secrets to selling anything one-to-many that you learn from there?
Trial closes. Okay, from TV or live stages? Because there are different live stages. Okay, because TV selling is on the down low. So live stages, I will say, is you must check in with the audience. I could talk to you for quite a long time about this. Finding who can see themselves by show of hands implementing the strategy I just laid out. Raise your hand now. Right then, I will know. I'll get a quick pulse on whether or not I've connected. And I'll also know if people are in their cell phones, I haven't connected properly. Even with a younger crowd, people under 30, if they're in their phone and I haven't gotten them off, I'll say, guys, I can stop talking or I can continue sharing who's liking what I'm sharing so far. Raise your hand. It's vulnerable. You take a risk. And if not everybody raises their hand, okay, then you must be in your cell phone texting Tina. Stop that right now, or I'm going to ask you to leave because I'm giving you my all right now. So it's risky, yet you get a balance sheet of your effectiveness right on the spot in real time. It's risky because there are people who aren't going to get off their cell phone. Usually people under 30, because it's an appendage at this point, that's their new umbilical cord. And they won't put it down unless I go up and physically take their phone out of their hands and turn it upside down. I said, if you want to attend my workshop, you're going to have to get off your phone or I'm going to ask you to leave, Buster. I just find it straight rude. It's unacceptable. And I've had people leave. And guess what? I don't care. Because if they don't want to listen to me, get out. It's a little harsh. Some people say, oh gosh, I can't do. Well, then don't see it because you're distracting the person next to you by you texting Tina. You're going to date her and do tea later. Right now, I'm here, I'm paid to be here, or I have invested my time to be here to share value with you. And if you see value in what I'm sharing, raise your hand and I'll continue. If not, leave. That's an extreme example. I don't do that all the time. But if I see an excessive amount of people using their cell phones, I get pissed off and I will get in their faces. And most people turn their phones off and pay attention. And then they're the ones that become the buyers because I became daddy. Daddy's home. Did you clean your room? Did you clean your room? Did you take out the garbage? Okay. You want money for this week's picnic? Okay. Daddy's home. Put your phone off. You like that, Mark, huh? We've all heard that. Wait till your father gets home. It's time for the belt. Essentially, the verbal, yeah, come on, pay attention. Checking in with the audience is important. Another way to prevent that is you break the word in half, is to set up the ground rules. Guys, I'm going to share great value with you over the next hour. Some of you are going to want to learn more from me after this presentation today. I have a few requests. Number one, cell phone, and I don't mean vibration, I mean off. If I'm to do this effectively, because I am very noise sensitive, turn the phones off so you're not distracted. And it's not just about you being distracted, it's about distracting your neighbor, and that's not fair to him or to her. So please do that for me now. That's a softer approach. And I do that in the beginning. And if I have to get heavy, like I just demonstrated, I am heavy. No problem being a heavy. I'm a 6-degree black belt, Mark. They can try to punch me in the face and it won't work. All right? They'll get kicked before the punch gets to me, figuratively speaking. So this is how I prevent someone taking control, because if they're using their phone, they're in control. I'm in control when I'm on stage. If you don't like it, why are you here? Why are you here? Why are you here today? Because I'm going to give you the value you signed up for. And if you don't see that, you'll get your money back, or I'll give you your time back somehow. So I set up the conditions. It's a fair barter. I'll give you value for your attention for this limited time together. And we got some work to do, so let's begin. Take control. Daddy's home. It's time to pay attention. And if you think that you're going to be in control by using your phone, you got the wrong speaker. Now I've got the personality that can back it up. Not everybody's that strong. I think a light request is, guys, in order for me to be effective and give you what you signed up for, let's have an agreement. That's a softer approach if you're not a hard ass like me. I can be tough easily. So I'll go depending on who the audience is. If it's a group of cops that I'm speaking at, I'm going to be right in their face tough. They're used to that. If it's a room full of liberals who are wearing pastels, I don't care if I offend them. I didn't vote for Kamala. And they're wearing pastels and they want to save the environment, I might be a little bit softer, because my goal is to connect with them. I just showed two extremes of how I need to manage an audience. The first time I spoke in the Philippines, the whole room was on their cell phones. I was the last speaker in the lineup on this day, a Professional Speaker Association regional conference. No, it was the international conference, but it was held in Manila. There, I was the last one. I was the last add to this platform of 3 days, 30 plus speakers, and they were all on their cell phones. Filipinos, and I'm generalizing, love to use their cell phones. And they're all texting and they're smiling. They're a very festive group of people. I love Filipinos. But Daddy was home. They respond to a very strict, strong father figure. So I got off the stage. I don't stand on the stage because that's your cage. Got out of the cage, walked the audience, went up to a guy that was on his cell phone. When I started talking, I said, guys, I'm going to show you how to make money as a speaker in this business. So if you're here to play around, then continue to use your cell phone. If you're using your cell phone in my room, I'm going to ask you to leave. And this guy was still texting, smiling, probably texting his girlfriend. So I went up to him. Mark, I'm a big guy and 6 feet and 220 pounds. And this guy was probably 150 wet. So I went right up to him and I used my hip and I bumped him when these were round tables. So I went up to him and I bumped him and I said, oh, excuse me, were you still on your phone? They all burst out laughing. And he he smiled and looked at me, and I'm a big fella, and he turned his phone upside down and placed it on the table. I said, I want you to do exactly as he did, because I'm going to share valuable information with you and I need your complete attention. Anybody that's using their phone, still right after me bumping this young man, and I shook his hand and I gave him a little pat on the back. I said, that's great. If you continue to use your phone, I'm going to ask you to leave now. Daddy's home. I used that exact phrase. They all smiled and got scared. Realized, okay, it's Catholic country and they've learned about smacking on the wrists. And I figuratively got them in line. I took control. As a speaker, it is your duty to take control. It's your privilege to be there. Take control of your audience. If you don't, you are weak. You must be strong. I wouldn't go up and bump a cop, but I'd say, do you want a fist bump? Or I would do something different depending on who the audience is. So I wouldn't go up and bump a lady wearing a burqa speaking in Saudi Arabia. I would be disappear forever. So I have to understand my audience, or go pat her on the head and say, nice lady. No, I would be dead. I wouldn't be able to do this podcast today. But in the Philippines, I knew my audience because I had spent a lot of time there, and it was done in a fun way, but firm. Fun, but firm. So I would say it's the two F's, F squared, fun and firm. Is that helpful?
Very helpful. I love it. Having worked with legends like Mark Victor Hansen, Dan Kennedy, what traits or habits have you noticed are in these high achievers that we can emulate?
Published authors, multiple books. When they speak, they take control. I'm not making this stuff up. These are observable traits I have found with successful people over the years. You got to have a book. Got to have media to back you up. Take control of the audience when you speak. Know your information. Be prepared. Preparation, practice are underrated. Be prepared because an audience will pick up if you're not prepared. Make sure your slides are spell checked. Don't make excuses. Oh, I forgot to catch that. It doesn't look successful. It doesn't look educated. It doesn't look professional. Check your slides. And I've been guilty of this myself when I've relied on my staff to check things and I didn't double check it. Looks unprofessional. You can joke about it. Make sure the devil is in the details. And remember this expression. I didn't make it up. Read it. Little hinges swing big doors. Make sure all your hinges are well greased, so your door of opportunity swings without squeaking and it opens up smoothly and the money flows. Little hinges swing big doors.
What does that mean, though, in terms of a business sense? What needs to be smooth for that money to come in?
You asked about speaking and one to many, so I'll use that. Make sure your AV has been checked. Your audio visual has been checked. Make sure you've walked the room. Can the back of the room see your slides on the wall or on the screen? Can they see it from the back of the room? Are your slides is any text above the lower third? Is it up in the upper 2/3 so people in the back of the room can see it? Is your text large enough, if you use any text at all, so the back of the room can see it? How does it sound in the back of the room if you're in an arena or in a large room of 300 plus people? Do your mic check. Do your slide check. Do your videos display properly? Have you checked the screen? Is it 16:9 aspect ratio or 3:4 aspect ratio? When you create your PowerPoints, did you create them in 3:4 or 6:9, 16:9? It matters because you're going to have a bunch of black space. If you did it in 3:4 and the aspect ratio of the screen is 16:9, you're going to have black space on either end. Looks unprofessional. Are you using high quality images or are they JPEGs that pixelate when they get enlarged? All of these details matter. Look at all the elements. Create a checklist of professionalism. Are your shoes shined? Is your nose hair trimmed? Do you have a big bush coming out of your ear of hair? Basic hygiene. Do your shoes match your belt? I'm not a fashion consultant by all means, yet it's important to be fashionable and match the audience. I conducted a 4-day workshop, 2 workshops in Singapore recently on my speaking mastery program. I didn't wear the right shoes when I packed my bag. My legs were killing me. Are you wearing the right shoes to be comfortable? Because if your legs start to ache, you're going to be less effective and energetically it'll get picked up on. It matters. Is your stage comfortable? Do you know where to get up and down? Do you need a flip chart? Do you have enough paper up there? Do your markers work? Do you have batteries for your microphone, your clicker backed up? These are all little details that represent your professionalism. All of this matters. All of this matters. Is your high chair stable? Everything that could happen has happened. Do you know enough to stand to the left side of the screen because people read left, or are you on the right side? Are you pointing your clicker at the screen or at the computer? That shows me how long someone's been speaking, the professionalism. Oh, if they're pointing at the screen, that's not where the receiver is. I could go on and on. Are you on the stage the whole time and hiding behind a podium? Rank amateur. You're not a pro. Get out. I don't use a podium, period. May hold my computer if that's where I am. That's what I'm using with the HDMI cable to come in and connect or what have you. Might be the case. But I don't stand behind it like a dope. That's the old college professor with the elbow pads on his jacket. That's boring. You're going to be gripping the podium in great fear. Doesn't come off. You're not the president providing an address to an audience that has to hide behind a bulletproof cover. No, you're not the president. You're not even the prime minister. So get out and work the crowd. Shake hands with people before you take the stage. Get comfortable. Do what's necessary. Know who's in the audience and create friendlies. The first time I spoke in Pakistan was a group of 700 MBA students at the University of Karachi. I had never spoken in that country. I got invited over by another speaker who had connections, and it was the first time I'd spoken in that country. Now, there were men on one side, women on the other, kind of learned that about Islamic culture. But I found some friendly guys in the audience. I was schooled, don't touch Muslim women, don't shake their hands, meet them, greet them like this, put your hand over your heart, all of these rituals, get familiar with the customs of the audience, understand them. I met a couple guys, remembered their names. So during my speech, I said, hey, I just spoke to Muhammad over there. Muhammad, stand up, show us who you are. And his buddy, oh yeah, Ahmed, stand up, say hello. And they loved the attention. When I said hello to them, I was saying hello to everybody of the 700 kids, young people. They weren't kids. They were in their 20s. They're MBA students. Strategies like that are universal. And understand the local culture. Understand the local culture. A speaker friend of mine made a huge mistake when he went to Malaysia, Muslim country, largely Malay people. He patted a woman on her head. Oh my gosh, did that backfire? He didn't go to jail, but he got in trouble, got in big trouble. So be sensitive to the culture, be sensitive to their way of doing business, because Canada is not the US. May be similar, but it's not the same. And certainly Dubai is not the US. Completely different. Be careful and respect the local culture, because America is not the center of the world. It is not. It only represents 4% of the world.
Mitch, your experience, your knowledge, building companies, exiting companies, helping entrepreneurs get on stages, get on television, get on radio, get branding done properly. You are a wealth of knowledge, and it's been a pleasure picking your mind and getting to understand the little bits that can help entrepreneurs listening to this. Any last words for our audience members?
You'll do better today when you look forward to today and tomorrow versus living in the past, because the real estate that you're allowing somebody to live in your brain is yesterday. Don't let it hold you back. We can drown in our sorrows of yesterday, or we can look forward to our successes for tomorrow. And it is a positive reaction. Get out and at least walk. Try doing something. No, do something. Do it. Get out and walk. Get some sunshine. You'll reboot and reset your brain, because you're responsible for your results. And I don't want to run contrary to any religion or spiritual beliefs. Let's say right now, today, whatever goes on in the sky or wherever it is irrelevant, you're in control for right now, and give yourself a break, because what happened yesterday doesn't have to happen today.
Thank you so much, Mitch, for being in the show. I hope to talk to you soon again.
Great. Thank you, Mark.